Hi, I'm Andrew McCrae. Welcome to our farm and ranch in northwest Missouri. My great-great-grandfather settled here in 1910, and I'm the fifth generation to grow crops and livestock here. As a farmer myself, I know the highs and lows of this life, the issues we confront every day, some new, some as old as farming itself. This show is a place to talk with farmers and others in the ag industry about topics that mean something to us, topics that can improve the present and future of our operations. This is Farming the Countryside. Welcome to Farming the Countryside. And joining me today, Landon Brown from New Providence, Iowa. And Landon has an integrated operation, is what I'll call it there, with crops and livestock both, but doing some very innovative things that I know I'm looking forward to learning more about. Landon, first of all, thanks for joining me. And why don't you just begin by describing where you farm and a little bit about the operation there?
Yeah, so we farm in Hardin County, Iowa. Be the Highway 20 corridor, kind of Highway 20 and I-35 area. So we've smaller acreage operation, but my dad started out raising hogs outside for Nyman Ranch, and then me and my brother kind of joined in on the deal, and so we still raise hogs for Nyman. My brother got into the cattle, and I'm more on the crop side, and so we've been integrating cover crops into our operation. I grew up running tillage equipment when I was 7, 8 years old, and doing that till the day I die. But things kind of changed a little bit, so started pushing more towards the no-till situation, and then started to kind of see how the cover crops fit into the equation, and really liked what we saw. As far as grazing for cattle, both get some in the fall and then in the spring too. Frees up some of that pasture. Pasture's a precious commodity around here and tough to come by. And so if we can extend our grazing days and then use some hay to fill in where needed. So that's kind of where we're sitting right now.
Yeah, you mentioned that about pasture ground. Are you one of the few that has livestock, especially cattle out there? Because that land seems to be so valuable to put it into crops these days.
Yeah, everybody loves to plow up the pasture around here, I guess. But there, believe it or not, there's quite a few cow guys right in our little area here, and so everybody's fighting for some pasture. We don't have a huge amount, but we've converted some crop ground back to pasture, gone the other way with it, and so that's why it's a little tougher for us. The other big thing is fence. Everybody just loves to tear it out and farm the whole works, and we're the only ones building fence around here, I guess, if we put it that way. So
You sound a lot like myself. Now, our ground isn't nearly as flat or fertile as yours, but there has been that tendency to go that direction. Although, with the current market situation, maybe we need to take more crop ground and put it into pasture with the cattle market.
yeah, that'd be a great deal. Oh man, if it wasn't so much danged work to put in fence and expensive too. But
That's right. We've got a guy cutting hedge posts right now on our farm, and that seems to be a going market for people that want to go put in fence.
yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about the operation then. You mentioned that, when you were younger, you were doing a lot of tillage. What made you make the jump then to go more no-till? And then we'll get into the cover crops in a moment, but what were you seeing to go that direction?
So where it really started was my neighbor, bless his heart, he's been a huge blessing to me. Started renting a farm to me when I was about 12, 13 years old, and he wanted to start trying some no-till, and so he wanted me to buy a narrow row no-till planter. So a Kenzie twin row planter is what I ended up buying, twin line. And so that's kind of how I got started with the no-till. We have some rolling ground. We've got waterways. We've got terraces. It's not perfect ground. You go 20 miles east of here, and they're farming chocolate cake. But so that's kind of, we saw the erosion, and that's where my neighbor was coming from, and I was seeing it too. And we had those wet years back in like 13, I think it was, and you just destroy a farm in a matter of hours when you get those downpour torrential rainstorms. And so that was a really big driver. And so that was kind of the no-till. We started off no-tilling into corn stalks. That was an easy start. And then, but I've still felt like we were missing something. I got started doing some no-till corn into bean stubble, and that worked pretty well too. But then I wanted to add in the cover crop piece. I've been reading about it, learning about it, and so I decided if I'm going to do it, we might as well go whole hog on it. We dabbled in it for a few years, and then decided to buy a drill so we could get seed to soil contact. We tried some floating it over the top, the airplane, all that good stuff, and just weren't thrilled with the stands. So then we went the drill route, and that really changed the game. But now we've started cutting our chemical use. I mean, my chemical bill is probably half of what it used to be, and that's a big deal, especially in this time of tight margins. But we like the biological aspect of it as well. It's really fun to see something green growing out there right away in the spring, something greening up. It's nice to see that.
Yeah, let's talk about those cover crops because, as you sure know, there's challenges, and we've done some cover crops in the past. Talk about the timing because are you finding you can get the crop out fast enough and still get in and drill those at a point where you can get enough growth before winter sets in?
Yeah, so that's a tough one, and that's where when we went with the drill route, we knew we were going to have to be committed to, chasing the combine out of the field. It's more work. Normally you could go finish harvest and then go start doing your tillage afterwards. But we try to chase the combine out of the field or follow it up within a couple days is our ideal situation. Doesn't always happen, but that's our goal. And if we can just get something started, most years I'd say we don't see a ton of growth in the fall, but what we always try to do the first couple fields off, really hit them with the drill quick, and that way we can get some grazing that fall, hopefully. The other thing I've started doing is little shorter bean maturities, get out there just a week or two earlier. That means a lot for cover crop growth there later in the season. And then we'll take corn wet. We've got a grain dryer. We're not afraid of 22, 24% corn. So we'll go that route too if we want to get some corn stalks and either start baling them for bedding or get the cows out there and get going. But always try to chase the drill, and it's not ideal. It doesn't work for everybody, and I'm not trying to sell it as that. So
Sure. No, I understand that, but I love to learn, and I think all of us can learn some different things. You are doing this both behind corn and soybeans. Does that change the mix of cover crop that you're drilling then?
yeah, so we've done a little bit with mixes. We've mainly stuck to cereal rye because that's about the only thing I can get to live through the winter. Um, we've tried some winter peas, some survivor peas. I've messed around a little bit. We've done some camelina. I've gotten some decent growth, but haven't been thrilled with it. The rye just does a great job. But yeah, so I built a second drill, I guess, that has 8-inch twins and then a 22-inch gap. And so what we'll use that for is on bean stubble. And so the next year you've got this 22-inch clean gap that I'll plant a row of corn down, and then there's just 2 rows of rye here. And so that really helps alleviate the allelopathic effect, with corn and rye. And the other thing that allows us to do is I'll also do relay cropping. And so what we'll do is plant the twin rows, and then we'll plant soybeans here, and we'll let that rye continue to grow, and then first week of July we'll cut that rye and take it as our cover crop seed for the following year. And then those beans will grow up, and they may not be great. It really depends on our summer rains. But I've had anywhere from 25 bushel beans up to 60 bushel beans in the relay system.
You mentioned planting the corn then in between those rows of rye. Is that because your fields are set up where you can do that? I mean, where we farm, we have so many terraces, it would be hard to ever stay in between those because you're making so many curves out in the field.
Yep. No, so that was a big driver for us and the technology side was moving to RTK. And so
Okay.
we have that repeatable accuracy, and that's a big deal for us in doing that. We do some curves. It's not ideal. It's more difficult, like you're saying. But generally, yeah, we're fairly straight. We can do curves, around a hill. It works. But you got to be an operator. You can't just sit in the seat and watch it work. But
But you've gone then pretty much totally cereal rye for cover crops on everything then, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We've what we'll do if we do like we do a few acres of oats and stuff, and I'll do some sole crop rye. We will do like a really heavy summer cover 8-10 way mix in behind those because we take that off mid-July, and then we'll put that mix in there, get a lot of great biomass built up. We'll create some nitrogen for next year's corn crop and create some grazing, which is awesome. So that's the other route we'll go, and I think what we've seen with that, letting that cropland take a rest for just a couple months there in the summer, building that biomass, letting it all break down, go back into the soil. That's been a huge deal. We've really improved some very poor fertility farms by just doing that system, and hardly any applied fertility. I mean, other than your nitrogen and some manure. And so we really like that. And that's what we're really thrilled about. We're investing in an oat mill now. Landon Plaguey by Latimer, Iowa, is headed this all up, and we're just absolutely thrilled. So we're going to be doing a lot more oats on a very large scale. So we're really looking forward to that.
You mentioned earlier that using the cover crops has reduced the herbicide bill. Walk me through what you're seeing then. What happens in the spring, and where are you seeing the reduction in what you have to apply?
Yeah, so probably the biggest deal. Everybody around here, they do a pretty good job with weed control. They've always sold pre's pretty well around here, and we continued to use them as we got started in cover crops. But the more we got into this, the more we found there's nothing out there. It's just the rye, and it's doing a great job holding it back. We do a solid seed on the corn stalk, so 7.5 inch spacing, and so that's solid seeded through the whole field, and so we pretty much quit our pre's entirely on the corn stalks going to beans, and we haven't had any issues hardly on that. And we've also been doing some non-GMO beans even without pre's and had fairly good luck. That's a little more touch and go and takes some management, but we can do it. The other tool I've got in my toolbox, I've got an in-roll from Dawn. So it's a 24, 26 inch roller. It's a roller crimper, and so I can each roller will fit between 30-inch row, and so if we do 30-inch beans, we can go through and crimp that rye at a later date. Our beans can be up quite a bit, and we won't run them over. We'll crimp all that rye between, and that's another huge piece of our weed control system.
Talk about the corn there for a moment. What did you say on the spacing? What are you doing with the corn then?
It's still 30-inch corn, the 8-inch twins. The
Okay.
weed control on the corn, it hasn't been an issue. We've lightened up like our atrazine and Callisto mixes quite a bit, and really haven't seen an issue. Part of that is I think the no-till really helps a lot. You go out and you work everything up in the spring, and you mix all those seeds into the soil. It's nice and warm. Everything's going to grow. And with the no-till, we're not disturbing anything, and so you're not starting any weed seeds. That just seems to be what we've seen, I guess. But
Yeah. One big piece of this then is you do have the grazing side. So how big is the rye then when you turn the cows in on that rye, and when do you normally turn them in?
we'll try to get them out there as quick as we can, as far as green up. I mean, and so the rye will be yay tall. I mean, an inch or two. But most of the time, the rye will actually outpace the cows, and so that rye, it's pretty hardy and starts warming up in the spring, and it's going to go to town. And so we've had issues with it outpacing. But for the most part, if we get a sized field appropriately for the cow herd, they'll keep it down. They'll keep it probably in that 2 to 6 inch range pretty well. But a lot of times we'll pull those cows off, and the planter pulls in the field in the next 20 minutes, and on our very last field. And what we'll do if we're on bean stubble with rye on it, we'll wait to plant that corn till late May. Late May corn doesn't really bother us. I mean, like I said, we've got a grain dryer. We've had really great luck coming in behind the cows. One thing we will try to do is if we're going to get a 2-inch rain or snow or something really messy, we'll try to get them back to the farmyard, lock them off for a day or two so we don't completely make a mess of the field. We'd like to maintain the no-till angle, but we have tools in the toolbox if we need to go clean up a field after the cows have destroyed it. I mean, you know what that's like.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Do you feel like that the cattle tear up the fields very much? And then I'm also interested in the manure. What do you feel like that you're getting as far as a value out of that manure on the field that they relieve there?
Yeah, yeah. So the as far as tearing up the field, you know, you go out there and you see all those footprints and you think, my gosh, this looks horrible. And I think it's a mindset change. Now I walk out there and I think if I see hooves that deep, I think, nah, it'll be okay, you know. It'll soften up. And that's the crazy part is I think as our soil with the no-till and the cover crops, it recovers easy. It doesn't seem to affect it too much. Um, it's I don't know how to explain it other than that, I guess. But I feel like we've built a system that it heals easily. Um, and so we don't mind it too much. Like I said, if we make a mess, we'll get out there and fix it. But for the most part, we really haven't done any broadacre tillage. Um, just, you know, where he'll go out and feed silage or we'll have some hay, a hay ring or whatever, you know, we'll clean up those areas. But broadacre, we really haven't done much behind the cows. And then as far as the manure aspect, I think it's just a great deal having that manure spread out over the field. I mean, look at all that time and equipment and wear and tear and screwing around that you save instead of scraping up lots and hauling it out. And the second piece of that is the biological. I think that's a really big deal. I think we have so much to learn in that space personally. There's there's a lot we can learn there. I think it never fails where we have livestock integration. So we get some of our best corn yields year in and year out. We can about count on it now.
Have you cut back your synthetic fertilizer then because you have cows out there grazing?
Yeah, we have. So obviously we're still using some nitrogen, but I'd say our nitrogen rates have lowered. We're down in the. I like to end up at a 0.6 or 0.7 NUE at the end of the year on corn. Our phosphorus, we haven't applied phosphorus on a lot of our fields in 10 plus years. Potassium, it's not great. You know, manure lacks some potassium value, and so we end up still putting some on, but we definitely have lowered for sure. If you put a dollar figure on it, it'd be absurd. You'd call me crazy, but yeah, and we have our manure from our Nyman Ranch, our deep bed style hog finishers, and then we've got the cattle yard, you know, the finisher yard, and all that manure too, and that's the other piece you know, we used to have old style manure spreader, you know, just throws it out the back and you'd work it in and you forget about it. Well, we went to a vertical beater style to really spread that out when we went to the no-till because we wanted to do this right. And what an amazing job that does. And that's really allowed us a bigger spreader like that. We haul it a lot farther. We'll haul manure 5-6 miles now, haul it far away from the farm on those farms that need it, you know, that can't have that livestock integration as well.
With those cattle, then, we earlier on talked about fence. So did you already have fences up, or are you just using electric fence? And then what did you do about water, or do they still have access to an adjacent pasture that's kind of a year-round pasture, so to speak?
Yeah. So we've tried to maintain our fences a little bit better. We've been putting in more fence. I mean, that's kind of an ongoing project on our farm is we'd like to have fence here and there and 18 other places. What we will do is run a single strand wire if it's just going to be the cows out there in a pinch. But what we'll do is we'll build permanent high tensile if we get something that's really bad. But we've maintained our fences as well too. Um, and then we're usually within a mile of the farmyard, and so that helps. We've been working on adding waters farther out into the field. You know, the name doesn't come to me. The black energy free waters, you bury them.
Right. Yeah,
So
there's
we've been
several different
using
brands, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so we've been using those. We've been working on putting some of those in to allow some grazing farther away. But yeah, the farm's far away from home. You get 4 or 5 miles. That really changes things.
Yeah, Cobit Waters maybe is what
There
you're
you go.
using.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah,
That's it. Yep.
that's what we have as well. So, what do you see then in the future? You've been doing this for a while. Do you have a goal to change anything? Is it just continuing to tweak what you already have, or what's on the horizon?
Well, like I talked about, adding the oats is a huge deal. We're really excited for that. Um, so that'll add a third crop. We've got the rye, kind of a fourth crop. Um, Once we get into this 3 crop, 4 crop rotation, I mean, our fertility use just goes to practically zero. And so that's what we're looking at right now, just saving, cost cutting, I guess, at this point. Um, we like to improve the farms we've got. Right behind me is tile plow. That's today's project. So working on that. Honestly, right now we really like where we're at. Integrating more cattle would be awesome. It's a lot of work, you know that, and it's a lot of work. But we would like to add more cattle eventually. The hog thing is getting to be really tough for us. We're fighting PRRS a lot. There's a lot of confinement hogs just right around us, and so the outdoor hog production is getting to be tough. And so we may see our farm shift from hogs, which it's been, the hogs were the mortgage lifters of 30 years ago, and may shift more towards cattle and the 3 crop rotation. So
On the cattle side, are you totally cow calf then?
we're cow calf, and then we finish out all of our own calves. We don't buy any to fill the feedlot or anything like that, But so we just feed out what we've got.
Yeah, and you just feed them out then in your own feedlots there that you confine them in, I guess.
Yes. Yep. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The hog side you mentioned before we wind up, it has been tougher, but with the outdoor hogs, has that been a way that you can earn a premium compared to some of the others?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so my dad came to the area and 30 years ago now and practically started from nothing. And that was a big deal to him to make those extra dollars because we didn't have a large chunk of ground or anything like that. And so we built up from nothing, Dad did. And it's been a great deal for us. Nyman's been very good to work with, but it's just getting really tough with the PRRS and disease issues. The outdoor hogs have struggled. But yes, it's been a big deal for us. The niche markets has kind of what made our farm go, honestly. You had non-GMO beans, and we've used to raise food grade soybeans, tofu beans that would get shipped to Japan, Nyman Ranch hogs. I mean, there's been a lot of things. Those niche deals of what kept my dad in business and now kept us in business. So it's been a big deal for us.
Well, I've sure appreciated the time to visit. And if folks are wanting to connect with you, I know I found you, I think originally, or saw some of your videos through Practical Farmers of Iowa. Is that a place to see some of what you're doing, I guess?
Yeah. Practical Farmers of Iowa. I'm on Twitter too, and on TikTok a little bit also. So you'll be able to find me. I'm out there, I guess.
Well, Landon, I appreciate the time and wish you the best on the upcoming season.
You bet. Thank you.